right, men, on the ball. This is it. 109's at 9 o'clock. Yellow leader to outpost. 1 fog wolf coming in. Outpost to red leader. Can we get them? It's our turn, Chief. Red leader to outpost. White flight drop tanks and attack. Red flight stay up for cover. Yellow flight continue to escort.
Red flight gets rid of its long-range wing tanks before the fight. Then down they go. With the touch of the finger on the stick, a camera and 8 machine guns are put into action. Small cameras set on the wings make the record. Poor pictures due to gun vibration. But you see it when it happened, as the pilot saw it.
This is what part of the Second World War looked like. We know what it looked like because it was recorded on film and has become part of the visual landscape we live in. We see it around, mixed up with all the other stuff about the place. We know it's Second World War stuff because we know this is what the Second World War looked like. We've seen the film. Like a lot of the visual stuff we live with, this Second World War has been deliberately manufactured. We allow manufactured images to mix freely with our experience of the natural world, and this mix is installed in our minds as what the world looks like. It is what we call normal. And because it is normal, it is very important to us. Actually, what we've just seen is not what we know the Second World War really looks like. We get our Second World War from this kind of documentary propaganda, which includes faked shots of pilots, grim and warrior-like, who look out of windows, and other set-up shots of planes swooping and guns firing. These are mixed in with the combat footage. Films are made by putting bits together, and sensibly, almost all films are assembled in a deliberate order so they can tell us a story. That the pilots looking out the window shots are faked is trivial, but it does establish that the pictures are just as untrustworthy as the words.
We were strong. As we neared the target, we edged into tighter formations. Each had top cover.
Whenever you see footage like this, you can be fairly certain that these are real bombers, real bombs, real targets, and real defenses. Though the way these pictures are used changes them. Footage, though real, has been assembled without concern for source or truth. Distortion is demanded by the industrial process we call filmmaking. This is true for today's news as much as for World War II.
Then we ran into flak. 256 heavy guns filled the sky with black, deadly mushrooms.
Direction and editing make up our Second World War as they paste together stories according to favorite recipes. Decisions are made on the basis of filmmaking effect. Spectacle attracts editors and directors. If the script contains a plane being downed by anti-aircraft fire, you look for the most spectacular film of a plane being destroyed that you can find, and you use that film. This shot of a B-24 being hit by anti-aircraft fire was used several times in different wartime productions. But what happens to this plane? A hatch above the cockpit starts to open within 2/3 of a second of the first damage to the wing, which suggests that the person had decided to open the hatch before the wing was hit. How does a person in that part of the plane predict a catastrophic hit to the wing from below? Now, look at the bombs. The bombers are in a tight defensive box formation. A percentage of losses in such formations were planes which were struck by bombs dropped by planes above them in the formation. And the high probability exists that this plane was bombed. If the incident had been identified as friendly fire, it would in all likelihood have been censored rather than being used again and again. A mistake, not a deception. But we, and the censors, and the editor for that matter, are misled.
our boys drove the enemy into the ground.
At the end of this dogfight sequence, a Nazi crashes into woods in a very spectacular bit of footage. But this German plane turns into two American planes having an accident. They've collided in low-level flight, and that's it. It happens very quickly, filmed from a vantage by a camera which is swiveling on a tripod, but otherwise stationary. The rather anonymous woods are probably in North America, and this may be an accident in training, or maybe even in making a war movie. Who knows? It's very spectacular, and wherever it comes from, it's not hard to figure out why it's here. But it's hard to justify. The editor knows there are 2 US planes and 2 US pilots in the Fireball, but he uses the Fireball for an audience to see and possibly cheer a German death. He cuts it so closely that there are only a few frames left before the fire, but they show enough to remind us of the existence of editors, directors, scripts and storytelling, and that their trade is largely deception. Film tells lies. It's the bleeding obvious, isn't it? I have here 2 cookie cutters. This one makes biscuits in the shape of rabbits. This one makes penguins. Here are some biscuits I cooked up earlier, and I hasten to add, they're delicious. Rabbits and penguins. I made this film by putting bits together, then stopping. I've done it to you too. I've made a film at you. Some of what you saw you didn't see, you heard. What you saw didn't change, it's just not what registered. You can remember this or forget it. There are so many ways to look at things.